Everyone, welcome back to CoGrader's tutorial videos. Today I'm going to walk you through how to use CoGrader if you are grading an AP Lit essay. One of the best things about using CoGrader when you are an AP English teacher is that the rubrics are already uploaded for you. And so you can use what has already been provided in CoGrader to actually help assess your students' writing. So let's take a look at the rubric that CoGrader is going to use to assess students' writing. Now, I chose the AP English Literary Argument rubric, and if we take a look at it here, you will see it is exactly what the AP provides to students. This is what you will find on the internet. This is what you will find in all of your AP materials. It is exactly what the advanced placement people have created, but CoGrader just has it in there for you already. In this example, students wrote an essay about Jay Gatsby from, of course, The Great Gatsby. The specific prompt was, is Jay Gatsby a tragic hero or bumbling fool? Examine Fitzgerald's characterization of Jay Gatsby and determine whether he plays the role of the tragic hero or the archetypal fool. The students had to follow all of the AP Lit requirements as they wrote this essay, and then once it was turned in, we can run it through CoGrader, and let's check out the feedback that CoGrader gave. First of all, we see the highlighted things over here, which connect really nicely to each specific thing in the rubric. Okay, so to start, let's look at this first piece in the rubric, which is evidence and commentary. Now, in the student's paper, which I skim before I look at the CoGrader feedback, what I'm noticing is that the student only had one piece of textual evidence. Now, any AP Lit teacher knows that one is not going to cut it. As I'm looking at this feedback from CoGrader, it really does not emphasize that the student only had one piece of evidence. I really need to emphasize that to the student that, yeah, one is truly not enough. So I'm going to tweak this a little to fit exactly what I want the student to get out of this feedback, so they know very clearly that using just one piece of evidence is not going to give them that 4 or 5 score they want on their AP exam. Okay, so I'm going to change this a little bit. So I'm going to keep the beginning to say, yes, you do have evidence to support your argument, to support your thesis. I'm actually going to get rid of this quote of the evidence because the student doesn't need to know what their evidence is. They already know, they wrote it. I am going to go ahead and say that, yes, they've demonstrated their ability to use textual evidence to support their analysis. However, you must include at least 3 pieces of evidence to support your thesis. This is something that would happen in class where students have to choose evidence to support their idea, and they would never get away with having just one piece of evidence. I try to make them have at least 3 pieces of evidence so they are really nailing home their point in their essay. So I'm going to include that in this feedback, and then I'm also going to include something in class that I call the iceberg principle. So I'm going to just say, remember the iceberg principle so you don't have too much summary. I'm going to keep this part, include deeper analysis of how these examples contribute to the overall argument. I love this final detail here in this part of the rubric. Consider exploring other aspects of Gatsby's character and actions that further illustrate his foolishness. I love that this is a specific thing that it's like, hey, dig into his actions. And so I can then sit down and talk with the student and say, let's talk about his behavior at the parties that he was throwing. What is that showing us about his foolishness? All right, moving on down here to the thesis part of the rubric. This states that the student had a very clear thesis statement. Again, I'm not going to keep this quote of his thesis statement because we all know what the thesis statement is because he wrote it and it's just right over here. And also this comments, you present a clear thesis statement. So we know this is all connected. So I'm just going to delete that just to make this a little bit more succinct. And then I'm going to say you present a clear thesis statement that takes a stance on Gatsby's character. I'm going to leave this. This thesis effectively sets up your argument for the rest of the essay. I'm going to go ahead and add in here needs more specific criteria. And then I'm also going to say, remember Aristotle's tragic hero definition. So this is something that we talked about in class, and the student will then be able to go back to their notes and look at what are those specific definitions of a tragic hero, and then we'll be able to go through and add those specific elements to their thesis statement. So I think this is going to be just a really good reminder to the student that their thesis is good, but it could be even better by being more specific. Right, and then finally, if we go down here and look at sophistication, really clearly and succinctly says everything that I am thinking about when I'm thinking about the depth and the complexity of the student's writing. So it's saying, hey, you have an understanding of the text, you have some evidence, but like, where's the depth? Where's the complexity? And what I really love is that it gives some specific examples of what the student is doing and then what they can do to make it more sophisticated. So again, they say delve deeper into the implications of Gatsby's actions and how they reflect broader themes in the novel. For example, look at the societal context, look at the author's idea of the American dream. So I really like that CoGrader in this example gives a really specific example of what the student can focus on to add that depth and complexity. So it's not just an essay that is analyzing evidence, but it's an essay that is analyzing multiple pieces of evidence and also connecting it to the broader social context in which Fitzgerald wrote this and what he was commenting on. So now that I am satisfied with the feedback that CoGrader and I are giving the student, I can go ahead and improve this feedback for the student, and they are going to be one step closer to getting that 4 or 5 on the AP essay. So I hope you also use CoGrader to help your students get that score that they're working so hard for. See you next time.